Even though these first picoCTFs capture the flag problems are what I would categorize as very easy or just easy to solve, the question is who's my audience? And when it comes to these first probably 20 problems, I'm guessing it's going to be kids or grown-ups with little knowledge of computers and networks and Linux. And in all honesty, I just want to get people interested in computers and capture the flag problem solving because it is a great way to learn. Therefore, I'm going to teaspoon you the answer if you have little knowledge about the topic. But as we move forwards towards more difficult problems, I'm going to assume the basics is common knowledge. And I have already covered ways to use Linux and preferably Ubuntu Linux in the introduction tutorial. Create a username and password for the picoCTF2018 and let's get started. And if you haven't tried to solve them, do that first. The first problem here is very easy to solve. It's a warm-up question, Forensics Warmup number 1, which is also our first tutorial. Don't worry too much about the 50 points, it's just the way picoCTF categorizes the difficulty level. The question is, can you unzip this file for me and retrieve the flag? And before we begin, they give you hints, which shouldn't be your first option, but in this case it might be useful, because the hints tells you how to submit your answer, which means that picoCTF is written first with CTF in capital letters. Then comes the answer part, which is enclosed in special brackets. Now, if you are unzipping something, it means something is zipped, right? Let's Google that word. And remember, no matter how easy or difficult these CTF problems are, you're always going to be Googling no matter what. Okay, we have it right here. Zip is an archive file format that supports lossless data compression. A zip file may contain one or more files or directories that have been compressed. That's from Wikipedia here. In my day, hard drives were small in size, so we compressed files to be able to place more stuff on the hard drive. That's not really an issue anymore, but universities still like receiving files in zip format. And you might have noticed that there are limits to the size of email when you send stuff, so once in a while you still need to use zip. And when you download stuff from the internet, sometimes you download a zip file. And zip files can contain more than one file, like it says. And just to mention it anyway, uh, Wikipedia is a great place for information, but don't ever reference Wikipedia in a report. Point being, we have a zip file which needs to be unzipped to get the content. And in our problem, the content is most likely the flag. Now this problem is solvable in Windows 2 and Mac, but if you're ever going to get anywhere in ethical hacking or information security, Linux is just something you need to know. So let's click on the file, and we want to save it. And we can see it here in our files. It's going to be in downloads, and that is our file. But what we're going to do here is whenever we can use the terminal, that's what we're going to use. So we're going to find the terminal, and right now I'm in my home spot here, and we can see downloads here, CD for change directory, downloads, and ls shows what we have in our folder, and here we have our flag.zip, so it's downloaded. So let's exit out of the terminal, and let's go back to Google, and let's write, how do you unzip a zip file? We could have just written file in the Linux terminal. And right here we have a good web page. Ask Ubuntu, almost the same question as we asked. How to unzip a zip file from the terminal. Here's the question, and it has 1231 upvotes, which means it's a popular question and you're not alone in asking this. Let's see. It has 9 answers, and the answer with the most upvotes here is 1693. It states here sudo apt get install unzip. Now that is if the program is not installed on your computer or your Linux distribution. Then it says unzip file with more information, but in our terminal we are already in our downloads folder, and if you don't know how to use the terminal, we're not going to complicate things, but just remember it says sudo here. Now the next answer here is apt-get install unzip. Now the other one had sudo, so it all depends on your Linux distribution or your privileges, but most likely you're going to be using sudo apt-get install unzip if the program is not installed. And then it says unzip file.zip, and that's what we want. So back to our terminal, we are going to go to the downloads folder, and here's our flag.zip. So when it said unzip file.zip, in our case that's going to be unzip flag.zip. So let's try that. And see what happens. And now we have the flag.jpg, and that's the file we're after. Now you can open JPEG in the terminal too, but that's actually easier in files. So we have our downloads, and here's our flag, the JPEG. Let's open it. And that is the flag. The reason everything is going in slow motion here is because I'm using Windows 10 as my main computer, and I'm using a remote desktop to my Linux laptop, which is Ubuntu 18.04. And the reason for that is I just haven't found a screen capture program that I like in Linux, and I'm using Camtasia Studio in Windows. So let's try to submit our flag. Pico, and then CTF in capital letters, and then we had the funny brackets, and welcome to forensics. And we're going to close off with the funny brackets again. And let's submit. And that is correct. So let's try to take a F5 here. And we see now that we have 50 points. This is the problem section of the picoCTF 2018. We also have the shell here, which we sooner or later are going to use. That's kind of like a terminal. And we also have a scoreboard here. Even though the competition is over, you still can be on the scoreboard. And right now, this is us with 50 points here. We are not going to go this detailed into all the problems, but if you're stuck at this level, we need to get you going in searching and the Linux terminal. I am placing this in my CTF category, but I'm going to make a basic Linux category to give you a more detailed understanding of the terminal also. As for CTFs in general, I'm going to mix it up a little bit with some advanced CTFs coming from intelligence agencies around the world. So okay, until next time.